The year was 1514, a time of great upheaval and transformation across the continent. Across Europe, the old order was crumbling. The feudal system that had dominated for centuries was beginning to show its age, its foundations cracking under the weight of new ideas and changing times. The Renaissance had ignited a thirst for knowledge and freedom. Scholars and artists were pushing the boundaries of what was known and what was possible, challenging the status quo and inspiring a new generation to think differently. Yet in the Kingdom of Hungary, the flames of change threatened to consume the nation itself. The tension was palpable, a sense of impending conflict hanging heavy in the air. The peasantry, burdened by crushing taxes and forced labor, groaned under the yoke of a decadent nobility. Resentment festered. The common folk toiled endlessly, their hard work benefiting only the wealthy elite who lived in luxury and excess. It was a powder keg awaiting a spark. The discontent among the peasants was like a lit fuse, ready to ignite into a full-blown rebellion at any moment. That spark came in the form of Dózsa, a charismatic warrior and nobleman. Dózsa was not just any leader, he was a man of vision and determination, someone who could inspire others to follow him into the unknown. Dózsa, a seasoned soldier, had witnessed the plight of the downtrodden firsthand. He had seen the suffering and the injustice, and it had left a deep mark on his soul. He felt the injustice deep within his soul. It was a burning fire that drove him to seek change, to fight for those who could not fight for themselves. When Pope Leo X called for a crusade against the encroaching Ottoman Empire, Dózsa saw an opportunity not just to fight a distant enemy, but to address the injustices at home. He would use this call to arms not to fight for a distant religious war, but to liberate his own people. He saw the crusade as a means to an end, a way to rally the oppressed and give them a cause worth fighting for. Dózsa's call resonated like thunder through the Hungarian countryside. His message spread quickly, carried by word of mouth from village to village, igniting a spark of hope in the hearts of the oppressed. Tens of thousands, fueled by desperation and a yearning for change, flocked to his banner. They came from all walks of life, united by a common desire for a better future. They were peasants, yes, but also miners, artisans, and even some members of the lower nobility, all united by a common desire for a better world. They brought with them their skills, their tools, and their determination to fight for a cause they believed in. This was not just a peasant uprising, it was the dawn of a revolution that promised to reshape the very fabric of Hungarian society. The Hungarian elite, blind to the storm brewing beneath their feet, dismissed Dózsa and his followers as nothing more than an unruly mob. They could not see the determination and the resolve that drove the rebels, nor did they understand the depth of their grievances. They would soon learn the true meaning of the people's wrath. The anger and frustration that had been building for years was about to explode in a wave of violence and rebellion. The time for talk was over. The hour for action had arrived. The peasants, miners, and artisans who had rallied to Dózsa's cause were ready to fight for their freedom, to challenge the old order and create a new future for themselves and their children. The stage was set for a conflict that would change Hungary forever. Dózsa was not a man born into privilege. He hailed from a modest peasant family in the heart of medieval Hungary, where life was a daily struggle for survival. The harsh realities of peasant life, with its backbreaking labor and meager rewards, shaped his early years and instilled in him a resilience that would later define his leadership. He had earned his military skills on the battlefield not through noble birthright, but through sheer determination and bravery. From a young age, Dózsa was drawn to the life of a soldier, seeking to escape the oppressive conditions of peasant life. He joined the ranks of the Hungarian army, where he quickly distinguished himself through his courage and tactical acumen. Defending the southern borders of Hungary against the constant incursions of the Ottoman Empire, Dózsa honed his skills in the heat of battle. The Ottoman threat was relentless, and the Hungarian soldiers had to be ever vigilant, ready to repel attacks at a moment's notice. This constant state of readiness forged Dózsa into a battle-hardened warrior. This experience forged him into a leader of men, someone who could inspire and command respect from his fellow soldiers. His ability to remain calm under pressure and make quick, decisive actions in the chaos of battle earned him the loyalty of his troops. They saw in him a leader who understood their struggles and shared their hardships. A strategist who understood the art of war better than any nobleman, Dózsa's insights were not born from books or formal training, but from the brutal reality of combat. He knew that traditional tactics, often employed by the nobility, were insufficient against the agile and unpredictable Ottoman forces. His innovative strategies were a blend of cunning and practicality. His time on the frontier had taught him the importance of adaptability, of being able to respond to changing circumstances with agility and resourcefulness. The harsh conditions of the borderlands demanded a level of flexibility that was often lacking in the rigid structures of noble-led armies. He mastered the art of using the enemy's strength against them, turning their advantages into vulnerabilities. This approach required a deep understanding of both his own forces and those of the enemy, allowing him to exploit weaknesses and create opportunities for victory. He knew that the traditional armies of the Hungarian nobility, weighed down by heavy armor and rigid formations, would be no match for the swift, lightly armed horsemen of the Ottomans. The contrast in military styles was stark, and Dózsa recognized the need for a different approach if they were to stand a chance against such a formidable foe. He would need to train his own men differently to fight smarter, not harder. This meant developing new tactics and training methods that emphasized speed, agility, and strategic thinking. Dózsa's vision was to create a force that could outmaneuver and outthink the enemy, rather than relying solely on brute strength. And so Dózsa drilled his peasant army relentlessly. He transformed these humble farmers into disciplined soldiers, instilling in them the skills and mindset needed to face a professional army. The training was grueling, but it was necessary to forge a fighting force capable of challenging the established order. He instilled in them a sense of discipline and purpose that belied their humble origins. These men, who had once toiled in the fields, now stood as a united force with a common goal. They were no longer just peasants. They were soldiers with a mission, driven by a leader who believed in their potential. He taught them to fight not as individuals, but as a single unit, a cohesive force that moved with the fluidity and precision of a well-oiled machine. This unity was their greatest strength, allowing them to execute complex maneuvers and strategies with remarkable efficiency. A cohesive force that moved with the fluidity and precision of a well-oiled machine, Dózsa's army became a formidable opponent. Their ability to work together seamlessly in the heat of battle set them apart from other peasant uprisings, which often lacked such organization and discipline. Word of Dózsa's charisma and his army's growing strength spread like wildfire. His reputation as a leader who could challenge the nobility and offer hope to the oppressed resonated with people far and wide. The news of his successes on the battlefield and his vision for a more just society inspired many to join his cause. He quickly became a symbol of hope for the downtrodden, a beacon of defiance against the tyranny of the nobility. For those who had long suffered under the oppressive rule of the aristocracy, Dózsa represented a chance for change, a leader who understood their plight and was willing to fight for their rights. A beacon of defiance against the tyranny of the nobility, Dózsa's movement grew rapidly. His army swelled with new recruits, eager to take up arms against their oppressors. The rebellion was not just a military campaign, it was a social revolution, challenging the very foundations of the feudal system. His name, once whispered in hushed tones, was now shouted from the rooftops. The people rallied behind him, their voices united in a cry for justice and freedom. Dózsa's rise to power was not just a personal triumph, it was a collective awakening, a movement that sought to reshape the future of Hungary. Dózsa, the Lion of Transylvania, was ready to roar. His journey from a humble peasant to a revered military leader was a testament to his indomitable spirit and unwavering determination. As he stood on the brink of battle, he knew that the fight ahead was not just for his own glory, but for the liberation of his people. Dózsa knew he couldn't defeat the Hungarian nobility in a conventional battle. The odds were stacked against him, and the sheer power of the nobility's forces was overwhelming. He understood that a head-on confrontation would lead to certain defeat. Their numbers were too great, their resources too vast. The nobility had the advantage of wealth, better equipment, and a well-trained army. They were a formidable force, seemingly invincible on the open battlefield. Instead, he embraced a different kind of warfare, one that played to his strengths and exploited his enemy's weaknesses: guerrilla warfare. This unconventional approach allowed him to level the playing field, turning his smaller, less equipped force into a nimble and unpredictable threat. Dózsa's army, mobile and lightly equipped, melted into the countryside after every strike. They became ghosts in the landscape, appearing and disappearing with the precision of a well-rehearsed dance. This mobility was their greatest asset. They would emerge from the forests and plains to launch lightning raids on isolated estates and supply lines, then vanish before reinforcements could arrive. These swift, targeted attacks disrupted the nobility's operations and supply chains, creating a ripple effect of chaos. This strategy, as frustrating as it was effective, sowed chaos and fear in the ranks of the nobility. The nobles, who were used to the predictability of traditional warfare, found themselves constantly on edge, never knowing when or where the next attack would come. The nobles, accustomed to fighting on their terms, were ill-prepared for this new type of warfare. Their heavy armor and rigid formations were a liability in the dense forests and rugged terrain where Dózsa's forces thrived. Their heavy cavalry, so effective on an open battlefield, was useless in the dense forests and winding valleys of Hungary. The very landscape that had once been a backdrop to their power now became a labyrinth of obstacles and ambush points. Each victory for Dózsa, no matter how small, chipped away at the nobility's morale and strengthened the resolve of the rebellion. These victories were not just tactical successes, they were symbolic, showing that the seemingly invincible nobility could be defeated. The Hungarian countryside, once a symbol of their oppression, had become Dózsa's greatest ally. The forests, hills, and rivers that had once hemmed them in now provided cover and strategic advantage. Every hidden path, every dense forest, every rushing river worked in his favor, transforming the familiar landscape into a deadly trap for the unwary. The natural world, with all its unpredictability and danger, became a powerful weapon in the hands of Dózsa and his men. They knew the land intimately, using it to outmaneuver and outwit their enemies at every turn. This deep connection to their environment was a key element of their strategy, turning the very ground beneath their feet into a tool of resistance and survival. Pause 2s. As Dózsa's guerrilla tactics wreaked havoc on the Hungarian nobility, he turned his attention to a more insidious strategy, exploiting the political climate of the time. Hungary was already on edge, with tensions running high due to the looming threat of an Ottoman invasion. The mere mention of the Ottomans sent shivers down the spines of both the royal court and the common people, who feared an all-out attack was imminent. Pause 2s. Dózsa cleverly manipulated these fears, spreading rumors that the Ottomans were amassing forces along Hungary's borders, ready to strike at any moment. These whispers of war began to circulate within the royal court, creating an atmosphere of confusion and panic. The nobles, already rattled by Dózsa's unpredictable attacks, now faced the added anxiety of an external threat. Pause 2s. King Vladislaus II found himself in an impossible position. The fear of an Ottoman invasion forced him to divide his military resources, spreading his forces thin between defending the borders and quelling the rebellion. This division of strength left the royal army vulnerable and disorganized, unable to mount a coherent and focused response to either threat. Pause 2s. As the king scrambled to protect his kingdom on two fronts, Dózsa took full advantage of the chaos. He continued to build his forces, gaining additional support from urban workers and peasants who believed that the king was incapable of defending Hungary from external threats while also suppressing the rebellion. The more the king's forces were stretched, the more resolute Dózsa's supporters became. Pause 2s. The distraction caused by the Ottoman threat played a crucial role in ensuring Dózsa's rebellion gained the upper hand. It was a masterstroke of psychological warfare, turning the fear of invasion into a powerful tool of resistance. With each passing day, the balance of power shifted further in Dózsa's favor as the nobility and the royal army struggled to contend with threats both within and without. Pause 2s. The Hungarian countryside, already a complex battlefield of guerrilla skirmishes, now became a chessboard of political intrigue and strategic maneuvering. Dózsa's cunning exploitation of the Ottoman threat demonstrated his ability to turn even the most dire circumstances to his advantage, proving that in war, the mind can be as powerful a weapon as the sword. Pause 2S. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the future of Hungary, as Dózsa's rebellion continued to grow in strength and the royal forces grappled with the mounting pressures from all sides. The rebellion had transformed from a simple uprising into a full-scale war for the soul of the nation, with Dózsa at the helm, steering his forces toward an uncertain but hopeful future. Pause 2S. With the Ottoman threat causing chaos, Dózsa saw another opportunity to exploit the vulnerabilities within the Hungarian nobility. King Vladislaus II, already perceived as weak and indecisive, faced increasing friction among his ranks. Factions of the nobility were divided, with some remaining loyal to the crown, while others questioned the king's ability to lead. Pause 2S. Dózsa cleverly played these factions against each other. He reached out to the lower-ranking nobles who felt marginalized and overlooked by the royal court. Promising them power and influence in the new order he envisioned, Dózsa gained their support. These lower-ranking nobles, along with key rebel factions, began to rally behind Dózsa's cause, further fragmenting the nobility's unity. Pause 2S. As Dózsa's forces continued to win decisive battles, the king's authority began to crumble. Each victory not only bolstered the rebels' morale, but also sent a clear message to the wavering nobles. The tide was turning. The once mighty royal army was now seen as a disorganized and ineffective force, unable to protect the kingdom or maintain order. Pause 2S. The ultimate test of this shifting power came with the siege of Buda Castle. The heart of the kingdom and the symbol of royal authority, Buda Castle was now under threat. Dózsa's forces, emboldened by their recent successes, launched a ferocious assault on the stronghold. The royal family, realizing the gravity of the situation, was forced to retreat, abandoning their seat of power. Pause 2S. This retreat marked a significant turning point in the rebellion. The king's flight from Buda Castle was more than just a tactical withdrawal. It was a psychological blow to the royalist cause. The image of an invincible monarchy was shattered, and the perception of Dózsa as a legitimate contender for power grew stronger. Pause 2S. The divisions among the nobility were now fully exploited. Dózsa's manipulation of these internal conflicts demonstrated his strategic brilliance. He had not only weakened the king's position, but also solidified his own. The rebellion was no longer just a peasant uprising. It had evolved into a formidable force capable of challenging the very foundations of the Hungarian kingdom. Pause 2S. As the royal family retreated and the nobility remained in disarray, the path was clear for Dózsa to press his advantage. The stage was set for the next phase of the conflict, where the future of Hungary would be decided by the outcome of this unprecedented struggle for power. Dózsa's rebellion had transformed the political landscape, and the kingdom would never be the same again. Pause 2S. In the actual history, Dózsa faced a horrific death. Captured and brutally tortured, he was forced to sit on a burning throne where his skin burned and his bones cracked as part of a horrific public execution. His execution symbolized the feudal system's cruelty and injustice, cementing his martyrdom. Pause 2S. But in this alternate timeline, Dózsa avoids this tragic fate. Instead of facing such gruesome torture, Dózsa negotiates with King Vladislaus II, who, realizing the rebellion is unstoppable, agrees to abdicate the throne and flee to Vienna. Pause 2S. Dózsa's tactical brilliance, popular support, and diplomatic skill forced the king to leave, sparing Dózsa from the barbaric death that awaited him. Pause 2S. Instead of sitting on a burning throne, Dózsa becomes Hungary's new ruler, praised for his wisdom and leadership. Pause 2S. With the monarchy overthrown, Dózsa establishes the People's Republic of Hungary, a utopian society built on land reform, social justice, and popular participation. Pause 2S. He doesn't claim absolute power. Instead, he forms a coalition government that includes peasants, urban workers, and sympathetic lower nobles. Pause 2S. Key reforms include Pause 1S. Abolition of the serf system. Peasants are freed from servitude and forced labor. Pause 1S. Land redistribution. Large estates are taken from the nobility and redistributed to peasants. Pause 1 as peasant militias. Dózsa's peasant forces are officially recognized as part of Hungary's military. Pause 2s. Dózsa's land reforms and cooperative farming models revive the economy and ensure food security for all. Pause 2s. Political reforms introduce a proto-democratic system where peasants, workers, and lower nobles have a voice in governance. Pause 2s. The state also curbs the Catholic Church's power over land, opening the door to religious reforms and the Hungarian Reformation, with some regions embracing Protestant ideas. Pause 2s. Dózsa strengthens Hungary's military, making it more unified and capable of defending against the Ottoman Empire. Pause 2s. He secures alliances with the Holy Roman Empire and Poland, and Hungary emerges as a cohesive, stronger state, able to face external threats. Pause 2s. Dózsa's success inspires peasant uprisings across Europe, particularly in Poland and Bohemia. His reforms, focused on land redistribution and social justice, lead to the decline of feudalism across Central and Eastern Europe. Pause 2s. Political reforms empower the middle class and reduce the nobility's power. Pause 2s. Dózsa's victory accelerates the Reformation, not just as a religious movement, but as a social and political revolution, leading to a Europe with more egalitarian societies and a decline in the power of monarchies and feudal aristocracies. Pause 2s. In this alternate history, Dózsa is remembered not for a brutal death, but as the architect of a new utopian Hungary. Pause 2s. His leadership sets the stage for early European social democracy, and he becomes a symbol of hope, justice, and social change. His legacy demonstrates how military brilliance, strategic alliances, and reform can bring about a fairer, more egalitarian society, ending centuries of feudal injustice. Pause 2s. Through Dózsa's victory, Hungary moves toward a future where social justice, freedom, and democracy begin to flourish, an enduring legacy of a man who defied the cruelty of history to create a better world for his people.